Steelers Nation, welcome to episode number 119 of the Still City Insider podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremy Hritz, alongside Jim Wexell, the insider himself. You can't see Jim. We're trying to get his computer set up. You got this beautiful picture of him right here. And we had our first preseason game, Jim. Steelers lost 20-12 to the Texans. Are getting ready for the Bills. We got lots to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't bring my camera with me to camp, so we're a little amateuristic, but we're gonna have some information for you. So fire away, Jeremy.
All right, I'm gonna fire away here. So Russell Wilson's running with the ones. We obviously got to see Justin Fields in his first preseason contest with the Steelers. He's still the number one guy, right?
Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Today he won. Yeah. You know what was interesting today is, and Roy's going to write about this for tomorrow, Roy Countryman. Two of the periods, one was a third down period, and that really kind of clued us in because Roy talked to Arthur Smith after. Arthur didn't really answer the question, but Roy said his body language suggested this is what they were doing, is they were yanking Russell after two snaps, after one snap. Then Justin would get two snaps and one snap. This is just on a couple periods. And it looked like, and Roy and I talked it over, that they were getting Fields, they were getting both quarterbacks ready to be yanked at any time. Therefore, that means getting Fields ready to run down packages, especially on third down.
Okay. So does that indicate, just from my perspective as a fan, that there's maybe a lack of confidence in both players?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think they want to, Russell hasn't shown the mobility that he showed in the spring, and that's a big part of his game. And he hasn't shown it since the calf injury. So maybe that's playing a factor into it. Maybe they just like Justin's running ability so much. And maybe they're not going to do too much of it, but today it seemed like they were getting both guys ready to, when Russell's in there and Justin comes onto the field, this is how we work. This is what we're doing. So get used to it.
Yeah. And just looking ahead to this Friday, is there any chance that we get to see Wilson in a Steelers uniform taking snaps with the ones?
Neither coach committed to it. Neither the coordinator nor Tomlin, and Russ wasn't talking after just signing autographs.
Okay.
So we don't know, but Russ was taking most, he took the first 7 shots, reps, and but he was better today than he was the first day. But he's still not the Russ he was in the spring with that with the lack of mobility. So anyway, quarterback's a question mark.
Yeah, and just, going off of Friday's game, there were moments where Fields, I felt like he flashed, but, the mishandled snaps, which you got to put some of that on Herbig. I know that that's not all on Fields, but it's still concerning to say the least. But it felt like he was kind of what we talked about, boom or bust. He's either hitting a nice play or he's not. It didn't seem very even, his performance.
Right, and he continued the other day in practice. He had a ball batted at the line that Jacoby Windman picked off out of the air and ran for a pick six, returned for a touchdown. So, while he'll throw 3 beautiful passes, then there will be plays like that, or an intercepted screen, or a fumbled snap. So, yeah, he's got to get his consistency together. And that's been the problem throughout his career.
Yeah. And in talking about his protection, he was sacked twice in the game. And Jim, I wanted to spend some time talking about the offensive line because that's where it's all going to, begin and end with this team. And really just starting to talk about the performance of Troy Fautanu and, how he did this past Friday. And, to compound matters, he did give up 2 sacks in the game, but now he's got a knee injury. Based on just that limited performance, anything encouraging you're taking out of his game Friday?
Not really. He was okay. Gave up 2 sacks and he got hurt.
Yeah.
And you said there was a report that he's going to start at right tackle. I don't see how that can be possible. He's got to come back, show he's going to play more. I don't. This is going to be a setback for him. The guy that we all assumed would be in the starting lineup before him, the rookie Zach Frazier, is taking steps. He I didn't see him get any reps with the ones today, but he did yesterday, got quite a few. Wasn't the first guy used, but he stepped into that line. One time they pulled James Daniels and moved Herbig over to right guard
Mm-hmm.
to accommodate Frazier getting first team reps. So I think that move happens before Fautano becomes a starting right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Roderick Jones has a big brace on his elbow. He said it doesn't affect his play, but he can't wait to get the thing off. So maybe it is affecting his play, and he just doesn't want to use it as an excuse because he's not playing as well as he was at the end of last season.
Yeah. So
So
Jim,
there's question marks. Yeah.
yeah, and a question I had too. So talking about Herbig there at center and those two fumbled snaps, those botched snaps, how much is that going to factor into him getting a legitimate opportunity? Or do you think the coaching staff will just write that off as, hey, first preseason game, these things are going to happen? Or is it raise a big enough of a flag to say, we don't know if he's a viable option at that position?
Yeah, well, he has experience at center, but not much. And then he fumbled. He fumbled. I don't know who fumbled. It's a quarterback exchange, so could have been either one of the two, but there were two fumbles in his 9 snaps. And for an inexperienced player with a second rounder on his tail, it's not going to help him.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to help Frazier.
Yeah.
So, I think we can all see the writing on the wall. Frazier just has to grab that job. He has to prove he understands the offense and can make the calls and read the field.
Well, as a state champion wrestler, I'm sure that he can grab it and put it in a chokehold. Let's go to wide receivers.
I thought you were going to say, as a state championship center myself, I
Well,
know how important making the calls are.
my team never won a state championship, but we played against South Park the year that they won the state championship in 1999. So I'm kind of dating myself, but our teams were never that good. But talking about the wide receiver position, Jim, I felt validated a little bit because both Van Jefferson and Scotty Miller, put some decent performances out there. And I thought George Pickens played well in the little bit of time that he had. But leading into that game, all the talk was about Brandon Aiyuk. Oh, this deal's going to happen. But I felt like we've seen enough to maybe quiet down that narrative that there is still a need at the position. What say you?
Yeah, I really haven't seen enough. I mean, I like what I see out of Van Jefferson. Calvin Austin had a chance, dropped the ball. I don't want to hear that it was a bad pass. Hit him in the hands. He was more worried about getting his feet in bounds. Should have caught the ball. Could have been a better pass. People were disappointed because he was wide open, that it wasn't a better pass.
Mm-hmm.
But it should have been a guy who's hungry for that number 2 job makes that catch. And Scotty Miller was okay. Quez Watkins almost fumbled himself out of the NFL, but came back with real strong practice yesterday. So it was, sometimes you talk to these guys and you don't have to bring up the disastrous game you just played. Because, I asked him about this great practice, and he said, I had to make up for what I did Friday night. So I didn't even have to bring that up. And he talked about it. He said, I said, did Mike Tomlin say anything to you after the game or before this practice? He goes, no, he just wanted to see how I responded, how I responded as a player, how I responded as a man. And he had a great practice. Still bobbled a punt today. I don't know that we'll see him returning punts, but he was a very, very good receiver on the field. But that position's still wide open. 49ers asking for 2 first rounds. I don't care who believes me or who doesn't believe me. That's what the word is. Nobody else is reporting what the 49ers are offering. All they have is something from the Browns that was turned down. Amari Cooper, a 2nd and a 5th. Sounds awfully close to 2 1s. The 49ers know they can't get a receiver from the Steelers, and a draft pick isn't going to help them win a championship right now. So they asked for the moon. Now that can be negotiated down. I don't know what Omar countered with, but he made a counter offer, and the 49ers have yet to answer. They just stepped up their negotiations with Aiyuk.
Mm-hmm.
So he's under contract with the 49ers. 49ers are in no rush to get this done, especially to make a trade to the Steelers and not get a receiver in return. Yeah, it's great if they're not going to get 2 number 1s, but it's great if they can get a big haul of draft picks, but that's a championship contender. They want to
Yeah.
win now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be great next April. But so anyway, that's where that stands. They're trying to renegotiate with Aiyuk. He wants to be a Steeler. The contract negotiations are done, but the 49ers have not agreed on compensation.
So Jim, something that I was looking at in some of the reports were the discussion of a potential 3-team trade where
Well, this is all conjecture. Most of
okay.
this is conjecture. And it makes sense because if one high draft pick goes to the 49ers for the trade, one goes to, Cleveland so that they send Amari Cooper to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can get a receiver to the 49ers that way. But I don't know that that's a firm report. That's just conjecture. And it's a way to get it done, but it's awfully complicated and it's not going to help them get that draft compensation down when you got to satisfy 2 teams.
Yeah. And just for me, I think that that's way too rich for Aiyuk. I mean, he's a great player. No doubt he's going to improve that wide receiver room, but you're mortgaging your future for a receiver. So,
Well, that's the starting point of the negotiations, though, Jeremy. I mean, if it turns out to be a first and a fourth, what do you feel about that? I mean, now we get to watch him,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hate giving up because you never know. I mean, what if the season's a flop? You're counting on it being
what
a
if the
successful
season's a
year.
flop?
Yeah,
I mean, you got to go for it sometime.
you
I
do.
don't know that they don't have a quarterback. There comes a time where you got to go for this stuff. You weren't living here all summer listening to Pirates media pundits scream that this is the chance, make the trade. I'm looking at that lineup. I'm like, this is not the chance, and it's proving right. So it's wise that they didn't throw away the future, but the Steelers are a lot closer. I'm not so sure Russell Wilson's not the answer, and Justin Fields and this offensive coordinator. I think it's the best roster they've had since 2010. I really do. I think it's a full roster, a couple question marks, and the quarterback's the mystery. But it's a better quarterback than what they've had the last 2, 3, 4 years. Ben's decline after he blew out his elbow. So I'm not so sure it's not the time to go for it. Ayuk's only 26 years old. ESPN analytics rank him as the #1 receiver. There are people that see things that I'm not sure we as fans and pundits see. He's rated number 15 or 16 by Pro Football Focus, but ESPN has him #1. That's a little high, a little surprising, but man, I'm listening to Mark Sanchez, who's a former quarterback, talk on ESPN about how this guy just crushes man to man.
Yeah.
And if you go to a zone, Brock Purdy will pick Shanahan's offense will pick its zone apart. So he makes them dangerous that way. Now bring him here, and you got 2 zone man beaters in Pickens and Aiyuk. And I got to believe Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith will find a way to pick it apart, a zone apart.
Yeah,
could be fun. Could be fun. I want to cover in a draft time. I'll complain. But right now, I want to cover Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, that would be just my biggest fear is that this quarterback position doesn't work out and they end up winning 4 games. They have what could have been a high draft pick. But you're right. If they have that type of roster that they believe in, why not go for it? And I was going to say, I'll point this out. I was at that home opener last year against the Niners, and there were a few passes that Aiyuk caught that I was like, wow, this guy's a stud. So I would like to see him on this team, just not giving up too much. And maybe that's where the con artist comes to play and gets them down in what they're asking.
Jeremy, let them do the thinking.
All right. I'm going to take my GM hat off. Let's go over to the defensive side of the ball, Jim. I know a player that I was excited to see on Friday was Peyton Wilson, and he was very active on the field, led the team in tackles, but just reading through your column, you talking about his performance, maybe lacked some of that physicality in his tackling, decent in coverage. You want to talk about Wilson's performance?
Well, you don't get to see the replays as easily from the press box, and I'm seeing some replays. Good instincts, There's I forget who showed one of his early tackles really well done. I mean, he tripped the guy up. He got him by the ankles, but really well done. So a lot of good things. But I do want to see more physicality on. He got run over on a tackle downfield, and he gave up some passes. At that point in my column, the stock up, stock down, I think I had written four front seven players stock up: DeMarvin Leal and Jacoby Windman. I thought played great, and Pro Football Focus has agreed with me on that. And he's been my sleeper. A couple other guys. So I gotta have one guy stock down, and so it was Peyton Wilson. I've gotten some blowback from the guys on the message board. That's okay, but he's not as physical as he was said to have been coming out. And I watched the college film on him, and he wasn't that physical. He isn't a run stuffer. He's a coverage backer, and you need that. And he's going to be fine. Yeah. But I did give him a stock down just a little bit because, man, he's really been a media darling. So I don't know that his stock could go up from what it was going into the game.
Right. So he may have been overvalued. Now he's settling back down to the mean. He's reverting to the average.
Well, same with Beanie. Beanie made some mistakes and was picked on a little bit, but it's funny. I've been waiting for Graylin Arnold, and Graylin returned to practice, and Tomlin has been waiting for him too, because he really showed some great skills early in camp. Then he got hurt. So Tomlin's been waiting to use him because he's a veteran, and he's played nickel slot, and he had a career high tackles against the Steelers in last year's game. I'm sure it caught their attention. So they got him cheap in June. They signed him, and they've been waiting to give him a chance. And his first practice, he got beat by Quez Watkins on a 2-minute drill for a touchdown. He looked tentative. And who didn't look tentative was Beanie for the first time. Playing with the twos, he was having fun. And you could see that 4.3 speed. So, being on that first team unit is taxing, mentally. You don't want to make a mistake since this is now your chance. Yeah. So it's going to be a process. And Thomas Graham is the third nickelback. So that is a big question mark on defense. And I'm not sure Cam Sutton's going to be an answer. He had a bad year last year, and I'm watching him getting beat in camp. He's now a full-time safety. So I'm not sure if he's slowly working his way in because he's going to miss the first 8 games on suspension, or if he's lost speed. I don't know. So I'm not sure what they have in Cam Sutton, which I thought was the answer there.
Yeah.
So the nickel spot is going to be another question, but you see these guys do better as second teamers, and you realize it's a process. Let them cycle through, let them go through their mistakes, go through the ups and downs. And Beanie has a lot of speed, and Arnold and Graham are both veterans at it, and I'm sure someone will emerge.
Yeah.
But right now it's a question.
Right. So there's some opportunities there for the young guys in that secondary, and then just flipping over to the outside linebacker position, just wanted to hit quickly on Herbig and Jeremiah Moon. I thought they both showed some nice pressure from the edge, but still very early. But now with Marcus Golden retiring, there's a need at outside backer. So your thoughts on how they performed?
Moon made some plays. Kyron Johnson made more plays. And he's a better special teams player. He's smaller. Jeremiah Moon, you look at that, I don't know, is he 6'5"?
He's a lanky guy.
Yeah, he looks like he's got the great body for it. He forced 2 fumbles against the Steelers last year for the Ravens, one in each game. One was kind of lucky, but he's played a lot of special teams too, and he's interesting. But I think Kyron Johnson, number 53, has the edge. And the dark horse, the sleeper, my inside linebacker, Windman. I always want to call him Windmon because it's spelled M-O-N, and I all I care about is spelling. But now that I'm a podcaster too, I better get the pronunciations right. Jacoby Windmon is really had the hit of the game. He rattled some bones when he came in and play inside linebacker, but he can also play outside linebacker. So he's a long shot to be that fourth guy as a versatile. If he becomes a special teamer, he could be that guy. And the guy nobody's talking about is the starter at outside linebacker, the kid from Germany, Julius Welshaw.
Okay.
He had more snaps than anybody that night, was the starter, yet everybody's asking Terrell Austin about Moon and Johnson, and maybe even Winmont. Nobody asked about the German kid. He's the, what do they call that? The international player who's going to have a roster spot available to him on the practice squad. But he's like 6'6". He got a lot of playing time, but he doesn't flash. I really didn't even watch him because I just think he's so far away that it's not even worth watching. But he did start.
Yeah. Oh, there's something to be said for that. So just kind of looking at everything in totality there, Jim, any other players or positions or things from Friday's game we want to hit on? And conversely, what should we be looking for this weekend against the Bills?
Oh, it's the same old thing. It's things we talked about. Look for Frazier to move up to center, quarterback, and nickelback. Those are the questions right now.
All right. And that's going to do it for 119. And just to point out, Jim, we're at 864 subscribers. We only need 136 more before that Steelers opener. So I think we can get there.
I hope I didn't infuriate the one poor guy that unsubscribed and just told me off in the comments. I'm unsubscribing. So I think maybe 3 others followed him because we were up to 868. And I'm tired of thinking about it. I'm tired of numbering these things. I'm tired of how many we've done. I'm not even thinking about that stuff anymore. We got work to do. We got a nickel cornerback to find and a quarterback to get their confidence back. So,
and we got a wide receiver trade to close.
Absolutely. So they can get a first and a fourth. I don't care. First for Brandon Aiyuk, I'll do that. And then throw a fourth in there. Omar, you can figure out a way to get that fourth back somehow,
Well, this much is certain is when we do next week's show, number 120, we're going to have a lot to talk about. And so make sure you check out Jim's work at the Steel City Insider. Give him a follow on X at Jim Wexell. And we'll see you next here to talk about the Steelers versus Bills in episode 120. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. See you, Jim.
Hey, man. See you, Jeremy.